Yeah, oh, there's another presenter. Yes, so the next presenter, I wish we could talk some more. But okay, the next presenter, I wanted to raise up another point about the use of craniology and the skeleton, to show how Africans how the Africans were related throughout history, and how Egyptians were actually Africans from the land of Kemet. So I wish that for the last lecture, we're going to talk about that too. All right, but group 5, you have the floor. The next group is presenting. Sorry, go ahead. But thank you guys for that. And by the way, I didn't hear about the fact that Cayman Islands, prior to 1962, was a colony of Jamaica. I didn't hear you guys say that, and that is significant. Prior to 1962, Cayman Islands was a colony of Jamaica. I didn't hear anybody say that. And by the way, I used to live in Cayman Islands for a while. I lived there for some time, so I know a lot about Cayman Islands. All right.
It was mentioned, did it, sir? It was mentioned.
It was mentioned. Good. Go ahead.
Ufa, are you ready? Okay.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jerome and the group. You guys are doing very, very
well. Yes,
well.
we are ready. I'm just waiting on my colleague to share her screen.
You're welcome, sir. Respect.
Yeah, man.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another thought-provoking show of Caribbean Thoughts, exploring the Caribbean. As we would always join this third Friday evening, your presenter is myself, Chantal Parchment, and we have 2 exciting guests today on our show. We have a representative from the Turks and Caicos Islands, that is Mrs. Allen Cook, and we also have our beautiful guest from the island of Dominica, Mrs. Thomas Palmer. They will be giving us insights on their respective islands. They will also be sharing things that we probably did not know. So we just want you to enjoy another show today as we present to you the Caribbean Thought. We would explain to you what is Caribbean.
And we are having Sean. Could you hold on a bit? Chantal, our class leader, monitor, is actually speaking and in this group. And I don't want to miss anything. That we are getting a little bit of static. Are you guys also hearing the static?
Yes. Breaking up a bit.
Yes, sir.
I'm hearing a bit of breaking up.
Maybe somebody's phone. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes, great. Somebody's phone must be next to a device. You're perfect, and I love it.
Hold on. All right. Better, everyone?
Definitely. Beautiful.
Okay, great. My apologies. All right, we'll continue. As we would do in every show, we tend to explain what is the Caribbean. The Caribbean is a region consisting of numerous islands and coastal territories located in the Caribbean Sea, which is often characterized by culture, diversity, and its history, marked by colonization, slavery, and migration. My apologies. As I stated at the beginning, we will have our representative from Turks and Caicos and Dominica who will come in at this time to speak about their respective islands. First, we have the Spring Islands, whom is a territory of the British colonization, and she, Mrs. Allen, will come and speak to us about the Turks and Caicos, give us the history and an introduction of what this island is all about. I will hand over to our beautiful panelist, Mrs. Allen.
Hi, good evening, and thank you for having me. As mentioned, I am Umberta Cook Allen. Now, where is the Turks and Caicos Islands? What is the Turks and Caicos Islands? Now, the Turks and Caicos Islands is surrounded by the dazzling turquoise blue of the Atlantic Ocean. The Turks and Caicos Islands are a breathtaking series of coral keys and sandy reefs. Now, the islands are a British overseas territory located southeast of the Bahamas and north of Hispaniola. The Turks and Caicos Islands consist of 40 islands and keys, but only 8 of them are inhabited. The inhabited islands are Grand Turk, which is the nation's capital, North Caicos, Middle Caicos, which is home to the country's Lacayan settlements, where remnants of the homes, farming practices, and caves lie today. South Caicos, East Caicos, which is historically occupied but now largely uninhabited, Salt Key, and West Caicos, which is mainly used for tourism. Now, most of the population lives here on the island Providenciales, which is the economic or tourism hub. To date, the Turks and Caicos Island has an estimated population of 46,797 people. Providenciales is the most populated island, and here we host over 23,000 of them. Now, the island is famous for its soft white beaches, prolific marine life, and tranquil lagoons. This is typical paradise. But beneath this postcard perfect face, there's a passionate and complicated, deep intertwined history shaped by centuries of colonialism, cultural dislocation, and struggles for independence, which I'll go into later on.
My, Mrs. Allen, what a mouthful. I am sure you have whet our palates with this delectable information on these twin islands. I am going to now pass over to Mrs. Palmer, who will give us a little more meat on the bone on the Dominica Island. I'll pass over to her now.
Okay, thank you so much, Ms. Bashment. So today I'll be discussing on Dominica. So Dominica is officially known as a Commonwealth of Dominica. It is an independent nation situated between the French overseas territories of Guadeloupe and Martinique. Often referred to as the Nature Island due to its luscious rainforests, mountainous terrain, and natural hot springs. Dominica attracts eco-tourists and hikers. The island has a more diverse economy based on agriculture, specifically bananas and cocoa. In addition to ecotourism, Dominica history is characterized by its indigenous Kalinga people and colonial influence from the French and British before gaining independence in 1978. Thank you so much.
Again, some wonderful information. I just want to have a little bit of an idea. No, based on everything that you guys have said, what is really the history on both islands? What is the most unique history about the
Okay, so I'll begin with the history of the Turks and Caicos Islands. Now, the history of the Turks and Caicos Island is a very complicated one, but I'm here to break it down for you. So the history of the island starts with the native Lacayan Taino population, who flourished until they were enslaved by the Spanish in the late 15th century. Now, this was a fate worse than death that made them near extinct in the 16th century. Though Christopher Columbus was said to have initially seen the islands in 1942, Spain acquired us in 1512, but failed to colonize us. Now, the Bermudians and the French settled on the region by the 1600s to be involved in the lucrative business of salt raking, leading to border clashes. The British acquired the territory in 1706, lost the island to France, retaking them in 1710, officially annexed them in 1966, and administered them from the Bahamas. Now, the Treaty of Paris of 1783 created British Dominion, and Turks and Caicos was a dependency of the Bahamas in 1799. They were self-governed to some extent in 1848. However, due to financial and administrative challenges in 1873, the Turks and Caicos went under the Jamaican administration in 1874, and this lasted until 1962. Now, why until 1962, you may ask? Well, this is because in 1962, Jamaica gained independence. And as a result, the Turks and Caicos, though a British colony, and then was granted more autonomy, was still subject to the UK judification. And this led to the TCI being directly governed by Britain once again. Now, presently, the Turks and Caicos Islands, we remain a British overseas territory with parliamentarian democracy, right? And all this means is that we are able to vote in our own elections. We too have a premier and an election held every 4 years. But since 2025, this will move to every 5 years, right? So under the internal matters and administration, though the internal matters and are administrated locally, the government, the final authority remain with the United Kingdom. The economic circumstances of the island is determined by tourism, which contributes to over 80% of the gross domestic product or GDP. And then comes the financial service or the offshore industry and fishing. Now, the banking and investment financial services are also among the largest employment generators. Now, political and economic security for the islands, even with the increased autonomy, is unredeemable from the United Kingdom membership. So the Turks and Caicos, though they fight to be independent, there is no real strides to become independent. Because outside, back then, they started with salt production. That's no more. Everything on the island is now imported. And so everything financial is rested within the UK. So if they should step away from the UK, there's a certain level of independence that they would have to accommodate. And now with everyone seemingly comfortable with the way in which the island flourishes from tourism, no one wants to disrupt that pattern to date. Sorry.
So
Let me get this straight. Jamaica used to control the TCI. That's what you're saying? The small island of Jamaica used to control not only the Cayman, but the TCI?
Yes, ma'am. And you find that lasted for quite some time because Jamaica was... Yes.
That is quite mind-blowing to know that the Caribbean has such rich history that many of us did not know. Thank you so much, Mrs. Allen. So, Ms. Palmer, I'm sure you can top what Mrs. Allen said and give us something juicy about the history of Dominica.
absolutely, absolutely. Let's talk about our people. So Dominica was one of the last Caribbean islands to be colonized due to its fierce resistance from the indigenous colonial people. So we were very first, we weren't up for it, they fought. However, by the 17th century, the French and the British began introducing enslaved Africans to work on the plantation. The abolition of slavery in 1834 marked a turning point, but formerly enslaved people were left islandless and disenfranchised. Sorry about that. The struggle for economic equality continues today, with many rural communities still facing poverty despite these historical challenges. Dominica has carved out a strong national identity rooted in self-reliance, community, and environmental stewardship. The impact of slavery remains evident in our socioeconomic disparities, yet the island people continue to celebrate their African heritage through music, dance, and storytelling.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Palmer. It is rumored that Dominica has a unique language, which is a mix between Creole and French because they wanted to confuse their colonizers. Is there any truth to that?
Absolutely, and we'll move right
Mrs.
into
Palmer?
it further on.
All right, great. So, since you already have the floor, can you speak to us about the political economy of the Dominica right now? We spoke about the history now. What is really the economy like in Dominica?
Absolutely, and thank you so much again. So, unlike the Turks and Caicos, Dominica is a fully independent nation, have gained sovereignty from the Britain in 1978. It operates as a parliamentary democracy and with an elected president and prime minister overseeing governance. The economic relies on agriculture, particularly from banana exports, tourism, and a growing citizenship by investment programs. This rise of ecotourism has positioned Dominica as a leader in sustainable tourism development.
Thank you for that, Mrs. Palmer. Thank you so much for that information. Mrs. Allen, considering all of what was being said about the TCI and the fact that they're still dependent on Britain, you did also allude to the fact that they make majority of their fundings from tourism. What exactly is the island life like now in terms of population, residency, stuff like that? Can you just go into some information where that is concerned?
Sure. So as mentioned before, the Turks and Caicos presently hosts 44,000 residents. Now, what is our current position? Now, the Turks and Caicos Islands is now a luxury tourism destination. Here, they attract a high network. We attract high network visitors. So let's reflect last year. The Turks and Caicos Islands experienced a record-breaking surge in tourism, welcoming a total of 1,959,563 visitors, right? And this include 734,000 air travel, approximately air arrivals, making that a 10% increase for just last year, right? So if we were to compare that to 2023, when we had only 1.2 million in cruise passengers. So we saw a growth of over 30.44 increase. Now, Grand Turk is where most of where you'll find the cruises occur, not here in Providenciales. And for cruises alone, they recorded a 19.6 increase when compared to 2023. So, however, you'll find that locals have concerns, right? And this is mainly around environmental sustainability and economic dependence on external markets. So recent governmental efforts have forced the infrastructure development and education and disaster relief, particularly in hurricane response. So here you see where we benefit from tourism mainly. So because we are within the Caribbean, we are exposed to hurricanes often. Now, should there be anything where hurricanes are concerned that should happen to the island, we would face a significant hit, and as a result, our GDP would go down significantly, right? Yes, but currently we are flourishing. We're doing well.
That is great. That is amazing. I am not so familiar with all of the little islands that is a part of the CARICOM. So I
Smiling
would
like
love for
crazy.
any one of you, that there might be a little prize for the person who answers first. You know how our show goes. But which of these islands, if you know, has ever been or tried to be a part of the current CARICOM movement? First person to open their mics will get that prize.
No one can want to answer that. This one is easy.
All right, so we have a guest on tonight that decided to call in, Mr. McKenzie. Since you had stated that you want to answer the question, sir, the prize is open, the floor is open. Can you demonstrate to us if any of these countries have ever tried to enter the CARICOM?
The CARICOM, Jamaica used to own Turks and Caicos, so it have to be Turks and Caicos.
Okay, so in present day, Mr. McKenzie, you're saying that the Turks and Caicos is a part of the CARICOM or used to be a part of the CARICOM?
Oh, they're not a part. I believe they're part. I believe they're part of the CARICOM.
Are you sure? Is that your final answer, Mr.
That's
McKenzie?
my final answer. My final answer.
They are a part of the CARICOM.
That's my final answer.
All right. So, Mr. McKenzie, you weren't so sure. You were a little shaky. So I'd have to pass over to Mr. Edwards. He was very firm. Thank you guys for
No, excuse me. I want my
in
gift.
our show tonight.
I want my gift.
Mr. McKenzie,
I want my gift.
Not to be a sore loser tonight.
I want my gift. I said
no, he wasn't sure. He wasn't sure.
I am sure, but I want to give
Mr.
it to another
with
guy.
all due respect, sir, you were very wobbly with your answer. I must pass over to your opponent, Mr. Edwards. So thank you so much for participating, sir. We will carry on with our show tonight.
But
yes,
the gift can be shared.
Mrs. Burton.
I think the gift can be shared.
We will discuss it at the end of the show.
No,
thank you guys so much.
We give it to Edward. Very good. Very good. I really wanted the students to answer that, so we give it to Edward. Very good.
Mr. McKenzie, I am going to be offering you, since you are the runner-up, we have an amazing writer that collaborates with us in our show. He's a writer of the Neoliberalism. He speaks so well about the Caribbean and what the economical status is for major countries like Jamaica and America and such. So we will be giving you a book for free, sir. So just leave your name and your phone number and we will send it off to you at the end of the show. I hope this is pleasing to you, sir. Okay.
Very good. Very good.
Thank you. So we will now pass back over to our show. Thank you so much for that interactive break, guys. All right, so now we'll be talking about the demographic and we will go right into Turks and Caicos as it is a bigger island, islands that make up that small country. So we'll go right over to Mrs. Allen who will speak about the demographic of the Turks and Caicos Island.
Thank you. Now, with a population of approximately 44,000, the Turks and Caicos Islands are home to a diverse mix of residents, primarily of African descent, and this is due to the transatlantic slave trade, of course. Now, while foreign residents from the US and Canada and Europe contribute to the territory's social and economic landscape, the rapid influx of Asian migrants have significantly shaped the island's demographic composition. Now, Asian migration, both legal and undocumented, has introduced cultural exchanges, but also pose integration challenges, particularly concerning employment, language barriers, and access to social services. Now, it should be noted that the native belonger population has become the minority in their own country, as foreign-born residents like myself now outnumber those with ancestral ties here in the TCI. Now, this shift has raised concern about national identity, economic opportunities, and political representation. The increasing demand for labor in the construction and service industry continue to drive migration, further transforming the island's cultural and economic dynamics. Now, as a result, you see the government here pushing policies that has been discussing surrounding immigration control. There's a large deportation effort here. We're looking largely at social cohesion and economic sustainability remain central. These topics remain central to TCI, especially for future development.
Thank you so much. We're going to go right into Dominica now as we are trying to wrap up. So, Dominica, just go right ahead and speak to what is the demographic of Dominica.
All right, no problem. So I can see that you can see that Dominica is a leading country, very leading. We're doing very well. So I'm going to speak more about our population. So Dominica has a population of approximately 72,000 people, with a vast majority being African descendants. Wouldn't make people come push over in our country, right? Dominica is a home to the last remaining indigenous Kalingo population in the Caribbean, who continues to preserve our cultural heritage despite historical marginalization.
And I think they are called. I think they're called the Kalinago people. They are the
Kalinago. Thank you.
Yes, yes, perfect.
I love that our show is so interactive tonight, and persons are learning and adding to what we are learning about these countries. So now we're gonna go right into the religion. We know that the Caribbean is rich in different religions. We have, the African spirituality, we have Christianism and Catholicism and all of these other isms and schisms. But we want to just hear from the different countries now which religion is the most popular in that particular country, and just a little backstory of where it started and such on. You already have the mic open. Go ahead and speak to that.
Thank you so much once more. So for Dominica, where Christianity is dominated the religion landscape, with Roman Catholicism being the hold on. All right, continue. So Christianity dominates the religious landscape, with Roman Catholicism being the largest denomination. However, traditional African spiritual practice still influences the cultural expression in rural communities.
And just so you know, if you cannot say Catholicism, just say the Roman Catholic Church, okay? If you can't say Roman Catholicism, you can say just the Roman Catholic Church is fine, okay?
All right, sir. Thank you so much. All right, I threw me off a little bit.
Thank you so much for that,
all right.
Mama. Miss Allen, can you go ahead and speak to the religion that is on your island?
I certainly can. Now, just like Dominica, Christianity is deeply embedded in the Turks and Caicos culture. The only difference is the Roman Catholic Church is not as great here, but we see denominations such as Baptist and Methodist and Anglican being most permanent, right? Notwithstanding the heavy presence of the Seventh-day Adventist Church here on Ireland. Now, religious influence is evident in communal gatherings, celebrations, and mutual support during hardship. Now, the TCI starts every function with a hymn and a prayer. Now, though the island welcomed almost 2 million visitors last year alone, it still holds its spiritual practices of no alcohol sold on Sundays, spiritual holidays such as Christmas and Easter, and of course, Election Day. Now, despite colonial suppression, traditional Caribbean religious practices like spiritual baptism and other minor cultural practices such as obia in different traditions persist in the cultural narrative to date.
You notice that for Dominica Republic, they're 53% Roman Catholic. You notice that? Because you know who colonized them? The Spain. So Spain. And then you go to Turks and Caicos, you look at it's a splinter there, but Roman Catholic is only 11%. Majority is the Protestant church, Baptist or the Protestant. So it's quite interesting depending on who the dominant person is. I think you said who was the who dominated Turks and Caicos, guys?
The British, sir, even today.
Okay, so and all right, so there we go. We have and they have the Protestant.
My people, sir, the British, my people.
Yes, Jerome, your people, your people are in England. Yes, the English, the English people, them, you're from back then. All right, go ahead, guys. But this is a very good presentation. I love the contrast. This is very good. Keep up the good work. Who are you guys finished? What's the current position? Yes.
As usual, we commend all of the persons who call in to ask your questions and give your comments into our show. So as we come off of that brief break, we're going to go right into current position of the Turks and Caicos Island and Dominica. So based on what I am seeing here is that the economic recovery from COVID, which was a major economical hit to every country. So I'm just going to ask briefly for Turks and Caicos representative Mrs. Allen to tell us where you are now from tourism, because you stated before that majority of the income comes from tourism. So where are you now with kind of rebranding after COVID? What type of help did you get from the British people? Just basically overall, nothing too long, just a quick information on where we are now post-COVID.
Well, post-COVID, the islands saw a full 180 in terms of recovery. So because we're heavily dependent on the United Kingdom, whatever resources that is required, they are inclined to provide. Now we're given a budget to work with every 4 years. And as I mentioned before, we just had an election closing out one period. So you'd backtrack to COVID-19, which started mainly 2020 within the island, you would see that would have closed out a financial year. So it would have then been given a budget to suffice, and then would have just started a new budget. So in terms of growth and development, the country saw overall growth and development to be over 30%. And that is even within the population, right? So as I spoke about previously, the increase in migration, though Haitian migration, legal migration that is, shared the greater percentage, it was migration overall, because we are, for the most part, a sustainable Caribbean country that, well, mainly our currency is the US dollar. So once the US remains dominant, so will the Turks and Caicos, even though we are under the British rule.
That leads up to the question that I was about to ask. As a country that is predominantly ruled by the British, they go through their governance through the British. Why is it that they use the USD instead of the pound sterling?
Interesting. So from what I gathered, this because the dollar, though we're in the Caribbean and governed by the crown tends to agree mostly with whoever has the world control, and presently that remains with the United States. So it is easier to use that currency within the Caribbean, or this far in the Caribbean. One of our colleagues spoke earlier about Cayman. They have their own dollar, and they're able to, because again of the British, maintain that figure among with their other resources. Now the Turks and Caicos have no resources, with the exception of salt that we no longer mine. So we're 100% dependent on tourism and the United Kingdom for sustainable development. So they decided that it was best to have it remain with the United Kingdom. So it was either to use pound within this region or the USD.
Okay,
and none of the islands within this region use pound.
I completely do remember that show from earlier in the week where we had the representative from Cayman and Bahamas, and that was a quite interesting show. We did learn a lot from that one. Ms. Palmer, where are we now with the economic growth in Dominica, considering it's a completely independent country? It is quite further down in the Caribbean. I'm not sure what the tourism is like there. So can you just give us briefly, what the economic standing is like over there?
No problem. I'll keep it short and sweet and tell you what's happening here. So Dominica has positioned itself as a leader in environmental sustainability, and it has earned the title Nature Health of the Caribbean. Recent achievements include the development of energy projects, efforts to become the world's first climate resilient nation, and the launch of ecotourism initiative that have gained global recognition. So in 2021, Dominica has made international headlines by successfully implementing a plastic ban to protect its biodiversity. Yeah, man, we're going with things.
Know that. It's good to know that. Thanks.
All right, so some of the noticeable figures for the Turks and Caicos, though not many, because as I spoke about migration earlier, one of the factors to consider is that we also have natives of the Turks and Caicos leaving. And so most of the residents here are imported, just like bread and every other thing. So some of the noticeable figures include Rufus, Hewitt, a former premier.
Did you say that your people are imported, Madam Allen? Are we?
We are.
Are we? That's
how we consider ourselves. We are.
Okay.
Sorry. The migration here is so great that the locals that do remain. I remember it was a comment made by a government official here that the workers are imported just as bread and egg. And so that is one that remains, right? So we do have some noticeable figures, one of them being Rufus, which is a former premier instrumental in post-hurricane recovery. We see Charlene Kirkwright Robinson. She was the first female premier and an advocate for women in politics. Many of you would have known or would know Delarno Williams. He studied in Jamaica for quite some time. He was the first Olympic athlete from the Turks and Caicos Island to compete under the British flag. And this milestone was accomplished in 2001. Now, fun fact, today he hosted the Interprimary School Championship here in the Turks and Caicos with other Jamaicans. And he was just there reflecting on his time in Jamaica. So he's still doing well and a big advocate for sports to date. Thank you.
Okay, great. I noticed you use this big word for the first female, and the word you used was premier. For those of us who are watching who don't really understand what that is or the context in which you used it, can you just shine some light as to what exactly is a premier or who serves as a premier?
Well, thank you. So premier is the highest head of office here within the British overseas territories. So similar in Jamaica, we would have a prime minister. So premier here holds the same significance.
Thank you so much. So Mrs. Palmer, tell me 2 persons who are notable from Dominica and what they are notable for.
Okay, no problem. So first, I'd like to start with Dame Eugenia Charles, who is the first female prime minister in the Caribbean, and she is a champion of Democrat governance. And then we have Roosevelt Spirit, who is current prime minister and advocate for climate resilience.
Thank you so much. As we are about to end our show, we just want to quickly do a quick comparison on the tables. We're just going to ask just one person, irrespective of what country they're representing. So I'm going to just ask Mrs. Allen to do a quick conclusion, which is the comparison table between Dominica and Turks and Caicos. We just have a minute to just go through it quickly.
Right. So while exploring both islands, we see where the Turks and Caicos Island is under the British rule, while Dominica is independent. We also look at the landscape where we saw Turks and Caicos is flat. We have no mountains, right? Just coral islands and beaches, where Dominica have mountains and rainforests. Fun fact, Turks and Caicos don't have a river, only salt water. So let that sink in. So the climate here is warm and sunny, similar to that in Dominica. Turks and Caicos is mainly for luxury tourism, while Dominica is about nature and adventure. Cost of living here is very expensive as everything is imported. In Dominica, cost of living is more affordable. And finally, we see where Turks and Caicos is considered British Caribbean, while Dominica is more French or African Caribbean.
Thank you so much for that. So now as we come to the end of our show, we just want to wrap it up in a nice little bow so that, you know, they gave you the meat, they gave you the bread, they gave you the rice and peas and the plantain. So I'm going to just come with the nice sorrel juice to wash it all down to conclude our show today. So the Turks and Caicos and the Dominica, though different in governance, share a deep connection through their histories of colonization and slavery. The legacies of these experiences continue to shape their modern realities from economic structures, culture experience. Both nations have demonstrated. Both nations have demonstrated.
Hold on.
And innovation.
Sorry, you are breaking up, and we don't want to lose it especially for when we edit it. We don't want to lose you.
Close your camera. That might help with the audio. The
yes.
internet is unstable.
Yes.
So in conclusion to our show today, the Turks and Caicos Island and Dominica, though different in governance, share a deep connection through their histories of colonization and slavery. The legacies of these experiences continue to shape the modern realities from economic structure to culture experiences. Both nations have demonstrated a remarkable resilience and innovation in forging their paths towards economic independence and sustainability. The enduring spirit of their people, shaped by centuries of struggles and triumphs, remain a beacon of the Caribbean strength and identity. Our guest today gave us so much insights on these different countries, and we are greatly pleased that you could stay throughout the duration of our show and that you guys have learned something. So for the end of this show, we have one more brain teaser, one more prize. The person who can answer this question, any of the two questions, they are true or false, will win themselves a $200 credit, whether it be Digicel or Flow. The first person to open their mic or to send a message in the chat will win this prize. So the question is, true or false, is Dominica Republic, do they desire a visa from Jamaica? Dominica, the island, do they require a visa for travel from Jamaica directly to their country? True or false?
False.
False.
All right. Next question. Does Turks or Caicos require a visa from Jamaica, directly from Jamaica, a flight that you're booking from Jamaica, not coming from any other country? Do you need a visa into the country? Yes or no? Going once.
Visa. You do need a visa, but not a Turks visa.
Going twice.
You need a visa, but not a Turks visa. You need like a US visa or England visa.
I'm sorry, what visa? Edwards? Mr. Edwards?
You said you need a US.
A US or a British visa.
But, which one do you need? Coming from Jamaica, which one do you need?
I mean, isn't Turks and Caicos part of the CARICOM? And isn't Jamaica
They
part of
are an associated island, associated member of the
Yes,
CARICOM.
you
So
do need a
technically,
visa. As a Jamaican, you do need a visa.
A British
that
visa.
is yes, my dear, that is true. So unfortunately, Mr. Edwards, your prize will be shared with Miss Simpson. So you will not be getting the full amount. Thank you guys so much for participating in our show today. We hope that it has been informative, and we hope that you will join us again next week for another thought-provoking and culture-rich Caribbean thought exploring the Caribbean. Have a wonderful night, guys.
Thank you so much. That was a very good presentation. Love the question. Love the fact that you offer gifts. The book that you're gonna give me, you can donate it to the library, please. Give it to the library if you were gonna do that.
Sir.
Yes.
So I just wanted you to see that our group is quite resilient, like our islands, and we know how to improvise, sir.
Yes, I see that. Yeah, you're giving away gifts. That was very good. By the way, guys, I just want you to know that when when you guys talk about, I learned so much from from teaching this course and I've taught this course for a long time, and I always say I give God thanks for the opportunity to do that. Last week I learned from Idris. I always thought that it was Toussaint who was the founder of the revolution, but I learned last week that no, it was really Dessalines that's the founder of the revolution. There is no more group presentation this week. We are finishing class, but Dessalines. So if I ask you, true or false? What? Sorry. If I ask you who is said to be the founder of the revolution, who do the Haitians say? Which of these do the Haitians in Haiti say are the founders of the Haitian revolution? Dr. Bookman. Sorry, let's take for Dr. Bookman. Oliver Toussaint or Dessalines? The answer is Dessalines. Inside Haiti, Dessalines is the founder of the revolution. Outside of Haiti, Toussaint is the founder of the revolution.
But we never hear what I'm on there before, sir. We never hear what I'm on there.
Toussaint?
Toussaint is somebody who I've heard of before, but not Oliver.
You're like me, bro. You're like me. I'm like you. I'm telling you, I learned a lot. I learned so much. I learn a lot, and I take advantage, and I write everything down, and I keep everything to memory, and I do sequencing. When you learn, you do sequencing. And one of the things when you learning theories, I don't know if you do they used to do learning theories at JTS, and we did sequencing. One of the things you do when you learn, you do sequencing. And and I do a lot of sequencing, but it's just quite interesting to know how I'm learning from you guys and how this is an important relationship. Teaching, and when you start, and some of you are teachers, teaching is not just about the teacher. It's not an empty jug. It's not a full jug pouring into an empty jug. Again, my job is to facilitate, and I will pour information out, and I will try to be true to academia by providing various perspectives that will challenge yours. But I'm just being true to academia, but also being true to history in terms of where we are in society, who we are as a people, and how history have been bastardized or corrupted. And now we're learning that, say, for example, history. I mean, somebody wrote recently that a professor said recently that that the Donald Trump administration is attacking memory, or MAGA means it's attacking memory. Memory is in consciousness, so it's always important to facilitate a certain kind of memory among the people to continue certain privileges in the world. And so because we know that how we get information, we are going to be suspicious with information. It doesn't matter where the information come from. We're going to do our own research. We're going to push it to its logical end. We're going to even be suspicious of the logic that tells us to push it to the logical end, because we come up with a logic that nothing black no good and say Africans are black. That's a logic, but there's something wrong with it. So yeah, that's what we do. So, and by the way, earlier you guys talk about. I just want to say something. earlier, I don't know why I wrote it. One of you said we talk about the issue of colonization and fence. I just wanted to bring that point home: colonization and fence, and how when you look at the process of colonization, you steal, you corner off, then you create rules, laws, and institutions to protect. You steal, you corner off, or you build fence, and then you create rules, laws through institutions or religions or whatever to protect. So having said that, we talk about hard work, and we talk about what is I talk about Karl Marx talking about history. The wealth that people have in society today is not necessarily based on hard work. It's based on theft. It's based on strategy and relationships and so on and so forth that has created the positions of people in the world today. And so therefore it's always good to know that. And so when we study things, we want to unearth that. So yes, we're learning today, we're learning about, first of all, I didn't know that. I thought that the Lucayan people were all killed. They were okay. And it wasn't until I learned about the Urban Indian Heritage Society, one of my fraternity brothers who went to the University of Toronto. He's the founder of the organization. They're doing a lot of research, uncovering information, and when I do my ancestry, I go to UIHS. I don't go to ancestry.com. So we're learning a lot in history. So, and take advantage of the opportunities, and don't just think about passing exams. Think about by the way, I'm going to share the article with you that I read earlier. The article is available. I'll share it with you as it relates to the Lucayan people. The Lucayan people, and some of them. Oh, by the way, the Lucayan people, many of them they are closely related to the Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans today, when you look at the oldest fossil or bones or survival of the Lucayan people, when you study their biology, or when you do radiocarbon investigation, and that's what is done, a radiocarbon investigation, and I think I wrote it down, radiocarbon parting. So radiocarbon dating, you can type that up, do research on your own. Radio, R-A-D-I-O, carbon, C-A-R-B-O-N, dating. So through a process of radiocarbon dating, which is the evidence that they use. So, when you're researchers and coming to and academics trying to make conclusions, what evidence do you have to suggest that these people still exist today? What was done? They did radiocarbon dating. You can do some research about, you just type it in, find out what is radiocarbon dating. And they were able to find the relationship between this woman who is Lucayan and the fact that she still exists today. And she is also, and the Puerto Ricans, a lot of the Puerto Ricans today are related to those. And one more thing. Please remember, I said to you in a previous class, all that I said in this class is very important. Historically, people were nomadic. The Taino people, the Caribs, they were nomadic people, the Arawakan people. They were, and by the way, the Lucayans originate from a particular Taino people related to the Arawakan tribe. But the point, they were nomadic people, so they would travel. Some of these islands are small, and these people they are small in terms of their groups. So they would travel. They were nomadic, so they would travel whenever, based on the seasons and the winds. So that's how their survival depends on the seasons and their ability to move from place to place. Historically, that's how this. So therefore, you go to. So 1 minute they were in Turks and Caicos, then the next minute they end up in Suriname. Then by say, okay, we've outlived this land. Let's go back. Let's go back down to Turks and Caicos. But they would travel through. They would traverse the land. By the time Christopher Columbus or some of these people show up in some of these places, they were not there at the time because they were nomadic people, and certain time in history they would move. So by the time, okay, so that's the next thing to understand, to underscore. You also need to understand the behaviors of these people, the behavior of our Wakans, of the Lucayans, of the Kalingos, of the Taino people. They were nomadic people in the sense that they would travel, they moved. That's how they survived. They would move from, they were fishermen, they were agriculturists, they were so on, and they would move from place to place to place. They will never be in one place for 100 years. And they don't have fence. As I said to you, fencing is and statehood and nation. That's a European thing. But we don't think about these people in terms of how we think about people today. Okay? We cannot do that. They don't have houses and static places and have fence and they live there and they give the places to their children and grandchildren and so on and so forth. They were connected to the land, but they were connected to each other. They were all one people and the whole land belonged to them and they all traversed the land and throughout the Caribbean. Okay, so
No borders.
No borders. So they were nomadic, and two, when you do radiocarbon, then it shows the connection between the people of the Caribbean. They would travel from place. But as I said to you, it was important for the Europeans when they colonized the place to make sure that they remove any trace, any history, or any evidence that others may have to claim the land in the future. That is what if the Haitians say no. Some of us are from Haiti. Some of us are directly from Haiti. So you can't force us to pay because it's actually our land. Because some of our people belong to the land anyways. Because what the French is saying is that no, the African people there who stole the land from us, it was our land. Of course, as if the people, they stole the land and it became there, but they stole it as if some of the Africans and the people there in Haiti weren't original. But it was important for them to erase them from history so that they can write in the narrative. So now they can tell the Haitians to pay them $94 billion or whatever the case is. Okay, but this is important to note. This is important to note. But thank you guys. And this is any final thoughts from any of the groups you presented? Is there anything that you have said that you never got a chance to say you want to say?
I wanted to ask.
When are we getting our grades? Sorry, Edward. I'm sure you have something very important to say. When are we getting our grades?
Okay, great. All right, good. All right, next. Jerome, yes,
Yes, sir.
you're gonna get it soon.
I wanted to hear. I'm
gonna tell you as of now, I am impressed with all of you. So if you're not vocal in the class, then I'm not impressed with you. You should be doing something. If you didn't do any work in the groups, if you're not that involved then you should be concerned. But overall, what I'm seeing so far, I'm impressed. Right now you just need to be ready for the exam. Okay. Yes. Jerome.
I wanted to hear your view, sir, on because before you tackle with critical thinking to think about the set of people who we reported were no more. So I wanted to hear your view, your critical thinking view on Nanny of the Maroons being a hero or a heroine.
Yeah, she's a heroine. I mean, they don't, and she practiced obia. I mean, but she's a heroine.
Hear me think, sir. This is what I think, right? I think there are other persons.
But one more thing, Jerome, and we need a Nanny of the Maroon ticket with what's going on in the world today, and it's not just with what's going on in the world.
Sir, are you saying that we need a woman, or we need some? Because I don't know her. She's not. Nobody knows her, sir. No, there's no concrete or concretized history of her anywhere. There is no thing to say. All right, she's from this tribe, but what was her last name? It's like she was like this mystery person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So why would have this mystery person as our national figure?
No, she wasn't mystery. Who says she's mystery? Nanny of the Maroon actually existed. Actually, a living person. There are people who their stories.
Sir, was it a female person? Was it more than one person? Was it 3 person? We don't know.
Well,
we don't know.
They said that
remember, back then the last name wasn't as significant. It was her tribe. End of the Maroons is after slavery and all of this that we become.
And let me tell you,
and the whites and the browns.
That's not true. There is more information on Taki than there is of Nanny of the Maroon.
Yes.
There is more information of
the region.
There is more information of Taki than of that person, the nanny of the maroon. There's more information. They can trace Taki. They tell you exactly where in Africa I'm from, which tribe him come from, when him reach here. There's no information or true information of nanny of the maroon.
Can they find her grave in Jamaica?
I've never heard of that before either. So I don't know, sir.
They have monuments of her in Jamaica, so we need to get with the Jamaican Archival Society, and maybe that could be a research paper for you. Yes, that should be something of interest. That's how you do research.
I would love you to take her down.
Are you gonna do are you doing a master's? Are you gonna do your master's after this?
I'm not sure yet, sir.
That would be an investigation for you. That's how you be. That's how we do research. In fact, that's what would in research when you do your PhD, that you would have these 1 or 2 or 3 just general theoretical classes, and we have these discussions on, and having these discussions, suddenly something interests you. Nanny of the Maroons. Is it true? You write those questions down, and that's how you start a research study on Nanny of the Maroons. And by then you're going to learn more than what you are asking me, and you're going to create a research study, a research question from that, a problem that, and so yes, that is something you should do. You should work on that, because to be honest, I don't know much about Nanny of the Maroons either.
All right, sir.
Yeah, do something. And the first place you would probably want to start is an Obia church or a revivalist church. No, yes, or the Maroons, Maroon history. So go to the Maroon history, but we see because we are exposed. I'm telling you, there's a lot about Nanny, but because we are so exposed about a certain history, first of all, Obia is illegal, and then women, we only have one woman hero, anyways, because we live in a society that is masculine. So of course we're not going to celebrate women anyways. So therefore, do a research, go to the Maroons villages, go to some of the Jamaican revivalist churches as well, do some research, then also go to Jamaican Archival Society. Some of what they have might be wrong as well. Your research may help you to correct some stuff, and you could write a book from that. I'm telling you, Jerome, what you have said, write it down, and then develop an interest, and eventually you can become a consultant over issues related to Nanny of the Maroons or Maroonage history and so on and so forth. Please do the research. Please explore it.
Sir.
Yeah, man.
I'll take you up on it.
All right, definitely. All right, guys. Now we are beyond. It's 7:43 here in the US, 6:43 where you are. Thank you guys so much, and please continue to read, continue to reflect. All the last class is available. This class is going to be available. I'm going to break it up in 3 pieces. But it's going to be available hopefully by Sunday. But the lecture last week is available. It's beautiful. Love the graphics. It's amazing. And hopefully you guys can think about doing this in the future, like something like this. This is great. All right, guys. Anybody wants to leave in prayer? Lead us out in prayer.
Hold on. All right, sir. Good evening. I'm gonna have to jump now, so have yourself a good evening. I'm glad that our presentation was interactive, and I'm glad you enjoyed it and you learned from it. Big up ourselves. Have a good evening.
Yeah, we'll give you a gift, an A+. All right, that was very good. All of you.
Sir, I'm holding you to that. It's being recorded. I'm holding you to that A+.
This parchment.
Yes.
Is it going to believe? Can you please lead us out in prayer, please, before you leave?
Why you want me to lead in prayer? All right. Eternal and most righteous Father, mighty God, you are God and God all by yourself. Mighty God, there is none like you, Lord. Mighty God, we have gathered today, mighty God, in numbers, Lord. We have presented our different presentations. We all came together to get the work done. So, mighty God, we give you thanks even now just for that. We give you thanks, Lord, that you woke up us this morning, mighty God, and put us in our right mind. Mighty God, we give you thanks to our lecturer, mighty God. We give you thanks, mighty God, that we have started this course and we're finishing this course strong, mighty God. Mighty God, I ask that you will cover each and every person on this platform, mighty God. I ask that everyone who's preparing for their exam, Lord, that you will give them the mind going to remember, mighty God. I ask, mighty God, that you will just remind them when they go in the exam room, mighty God, that everything that they studied, everything that they learned over the courses of weeks that they were in class, mighty God, that it will come easy to them, mighty God. Mighty God, you know each and every person who is on this live tonight, Lord. Locate them in a special way tonight, Jesus. Cover each and every one of them under your blood, Lord. Mighty God, we know that there's nothing that you cannot do, Lord. So we leave it in your hands even now. Mighty God, I ask that you will cover, oh God Almighty, our lecturer, mighty God. You know him by name. You know his circumstances. You know everything that he is doing, mighty God, every situation, Lord. Mighty God, I ask that, oh God Almighty, you'll continue to give him thought-provoking ideals, mighty God. Allow him to continue to write down his thoughts and his words, God. Mighty God, I pray that every single thing that he touches, mighty God, will flourish. Mighty God, I ask that you will just continue to give him the know-how to do the things that he is doing, Lord. Mighty God, I ask, oh God Almighty, even now, that your will be done over each and every one of our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much for that prayer. And I'm actually trying to
Amen.
send you guys the thing that I found earlier. Is this it? Right, I can't find it. I found an article earlier. And to be honest, you have to that you won't find it. They hide these articles. I'm telling you. Let me see. Why are they not? Okay. Copy the link. Why am they not allowing me to share the article? Let me share. Okay, desktop site. Okay, hopefully I can. I'm gonna share this article with you. I'm gonna share it in the group. Okay, guys. I shared. It's called DNA analysis reveals the extinct Taino people never died out. Let me copy the link. Let me see if I was trying to send it to you guys just now, and for some reason my phone is acting weird. It's not allowing me to paste anything. All right, I was trying to send you guys, but the article says DNA analysis. For those of us, you can go, but those of us who can stay, let me read the article. It says I was trying to send it to you guys, but it says when Columbus arrived, the Caribbean islands were populated by people known as the Taino. Most likely they were descendants of the Arawaks of South America, and Taino was actually just their language. At the time, they were known as Lucayans, locally in the Bahamas, Greater Antilles, and Northern Lesser Antilles areas. They dominated. They courteously greeted Christopher Columbus when he landed in the New World, but within 30 years, according to Spanish accounts, the Taino were all gone, victims of European pathogens, smallpox in particular, and the brutality of the newcomers. Locals have long insisted that this isn't true, that they were simply written out of history. Now, a DNA analysis reveals the locals were right, and at least one modern Caribbean population includes Lucayan Taino descendants. DNA was extracted from a Lucayan Taino woman who lived about 1,000 years ago, according to radiocarbon dating, or about 500 years before Columbus appeared. Researchers believe her people arrived in the area some 2,500 years ago. As can happen when serendipity is at play, she was found by researchers looking for something else entirely. After a shipwreck at Devil's Backbone off the Bahamian island of Eleuthera in the 1600s, Captain William Stiles and his crew and passengers found shelter in a cave Bahamians call Preacher's Cave. In the early 2000s, archaeologists began digging there to learn more about their surfers and were surprised to unearth artifacts and intact burial sites from long before sails. With low expectations due to the fragile nature of DNA in hot humid environments, DNA researcher Hannes Schroeder examined 5 teeth from the cave and found a single tooth from a female that had sufficient DNA for sequencing. Schroeder's team was able to sequence, hear the word sequence again, each of the tooths nucleotide or nucleotide bases to an average depth of 12.4-fold, giving them an unprecedented view of the long-tossed Taino population, the long-lost Taino population. Again, so they looked at the teeth of this woman and found that it fit and resembled that of the long-lost Taino population based on radiocarbon dating. Now, the researchers found evidence that the Lucayan Tainos had likely originated with the Arawakans of northern South America. They also saw none of the telltale signs of inbreeding, suggesting she belonged to a large population that wasn't constrained. That wasn't constrained to Eleuthera, but instead extended across the larger Caribbean region. Anyways, let's wrap this up. Let's wrap it up. Most exciting was that researchers were able to document components of this woman's genome in modern Caribbean populations today. Puerto Rico became an area of special significance due to the high levels of African and European ancestry in modern Puerto Rico. The native components are difficult to discern. However, when we compare only the estimated ancestry clusters that reflect non-African European ancestries, there are clear similarities between Puerto Ricans, Arawakan speakers, and the ancient Taino, says the research. The analysis also finds that their DNA diverge from modern Puerto Ricans only recently. And it goes on and on and on. And you can find the article. I'm going to send when my phone decides to work, I'll send it to you, because I think for some reason I'm not able to send, but I'm going to send it to you guys. But this is interesting. This is powerful. Okay, read it, guys. Tell me what you think about that. And we know this is true because and this is not UIHS, this is not the Urban Indian Heritage Society. The Urban Indian Heritage Society is already conducting their own study. So all these studies are corroborating each other. And with the history that we have and what we have already said, this is interesting. We're going to end class. What good?